It's the first time in 9 seasons that the Kentucky Wildcats have had 2 players from the state on their roster with the latest addition of Trent Noah. And Noah, in Mark Pope's words, brilliantly fits what the Wildcats want to do this upcoming season.
You are Locked On Kentucky, your daily podcast on the Kentucky Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, what's going on, Big Blue Nation? Welcome on in to Locked On Kentucky, your daily Kentucky Wildcats podcast. I'm your host, Lance Dawe, and on today's episode of Locked On Kentucky, we're going to be discussing 4-star small forward Trent Noah committing to the Kentucky Wildcats after requesting a release from his NLI at South Carolina. He decided to come and play closer to home with Mark Pope and the Cats. Going to talk about what he brings to the table and why I think he is a perfect addition for coming squads with Mark Pope in the future. Also on today's episode, I'm going to look at an article from CBS Sports about Coach Cal versus Mark Pope. Who would win right now if these two hypothetical rosters played against each other? I've got some fun thoughts on that. And then to round out the show, we're going to take a look at some listener questions, some questions that you guys submitted over on Twitter. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can make every moment more, and right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 with any winning $5 bet. You can visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Thank you so much for making Locked On Kentucky your first listen every single day. Want to remind everyone out there that we are free and available on all platforms. If you are watching on YouTube, I would greatly appreciate it if you subscribed to the show. And if you are listening on podcast, I would appreciate it if you subscribed there as well. All right, so let's go ahead and get into it. Trent Noah, a 4-star small forward out of Baxter, Kentucky, Harlan County High School. He has committed to the Kentucky Wildcats. We talked about this on yesterday's show about how out of the blue, Noah decommitted from South Carolina, and he said in his decommitment post that he would be looking to go play closer to home, and then very quickly after that, he received a crystal ball on 24/7 Sports to come and commit to Kentucky, to essentially flip from the Gamecocks to the Wildcats, and that is exactly what happened. News broke yesterday afternoon, recording this on May 9th, 2024. News broke on May 8th that Noah would be coming to play the Joker himself. He seems to have, appreciate the Joker, the villain from Batman, considering Cody, the newest addition to Kentucky, or one of the new additions to Kentucky basketball staff, tweeted out his classic boom gif, and as we all know at this point, whenever Cody is able to tweet out those boom gifs that a player has committed, he actually lets the player that committed select the GIF that he wants the staff to post, which is just really funny that Noah wanted the boom GIF with the Joker. Just very entertaining stuff. But yeah, top 110 overall prospect in the 24/7 Sports composite ratings. He actually went up from 108 to 103. So just a couple of spots off from being a 4-star in 24/7 Sports base rating, but he's a 4-star in the composite rankings, a .9532 rating, which is actually really solid. For a 4-star. Number 25, small forward in the 2024 class. Number 2 player in the state of Kentucky, 6'6", 200 pounds, again, out of Harlan County High School. And I absolutely love this pickup because I think Noah could be somebody that legitimately is a volume scorer for the Wildcats in seasons to come. Take a look at some of these numbers. In high school, this past season, senior season, he averaged 29.9 points per game for Harlan County, where he capped his high school career having tallied 3,707 points. That is also a school and county record. It's the 5th most points unofficially scored in Kentucky basketball, high school basketball history. Mark Pope had a great quote on Trent Noah in the press release Kentucky released yesterday. He said, quote, "Trent Noah is one of the elite shooters in this class. He is a tough, hard-nosed player with a special physicality. As an Eastern Kentucky native, Trent will bring a grit, toughness, and determination to the program that is representative of this state." We are looking forward to Trent joining this talented group. And thankfully, Kentucky's press release also provides some fun statistics that you could find a couple of different places elsewhere, but they kind of categorize everything here. 29.9 points per game while shooting 56% from the field, 43% from beyond the arc, and 89% from the free throw line. At 6'6", 200 pounds, this kid can flat out shoot the rock. And you talk about that weight there, 6'6", 200. This is a full-bodied wing. He's got some physicality to him. I absolutely love that for somebody that can kind of come in and play perfectly into the 3-and-D style that maybe Mark Pope wants to try and implement here at Kentucky. Some more statistics here. Noah increased his average to 32.3 points per game during the 4 games of the state tournament run. He was tabbed a first-team All-State selection by the Louisville Courier-Journal and the Lexington Herald Leader. He was the 13th Region Player of the Year by the Kentucky Association of Basketball Coaches. Harlan County was the first school from Eastern Kentucky to reach the state finals since 2011. Noah scored 129 points over the 4-game span and set a Sweet 16 record by hitting 19 three-pointers in the tournament, bettering Mason County's Chris Lofton and his mark of 17 in 2003. Obviously, Lofton, a Tennessee great there. He scored 35 points and added 10 boards in the first round. He followed that with a performance of 48 points and 9 rebounds. By the way, that 48-point performance is just scattered all across the internet. If you want to go check that out, he was 7 of 10 from 3 in that game. 48 points were the 4th most ever scored in a boys' Sweet 16 game. In the semifinals, Noah poured in 29 points and contributed 10 rebounds. He had 17, 9, and 3 in the championship contest. He is a bucket getter, flat-out shooter. You saw the numbers there, 43% from beyond the arc. He can play with an up-tempo system. You look at what 24/7 Sports has to say about him. Adam Finkelstein, director of scouting, says he's a strong-bodied wing, an elite shooter of the basketball. His game is based on the three-point line. He's not only one of the best in the class when it comes to making spot-up shots and thus providing gravity as a floor spacer, which will be very important in Mark Pope's system, by the way, but he's also capable of making shots on the move. And you see that, by the way, during just the 4 games in the state tournament run, about how he's able to get inside the arc and in some really tough shots as well. Adam continues, he's a heady offensive player and a good passer who knows how to play within offensive structure. Noah has a strong and fairly broad frame, which can allow him to defend some bigger players. He's also a solid wing rebounder. You can also see that in some of his highlight reels. He needs to continue to work on his defensive quickness and his ability to create his own offense. That's how Finkelstein ends the scouting report there. And I think I would agree, just based on watching him play. Probably it's not necessarily speed in the open court, but just reaction time, just being quicker in that department, I think is going to be important for Noah in the future. But yeah, 4-star guard, solid 4-star guard wing type that I think will be perfect at Kentucky for the 3. I think he'll get playing time, just straight up. I think he'll get playing time this season. I think that the way that Kentucky may work out their shooting guard and small forward spots, if they don't get anybody else, I think Noah will actually get time at the 3. Like, I genuinely believe that. And I hope he does. Because I think that if you have somebody that's this perfect for what Mark Pope wants to do, which Mark Pope has described recently, his roster that he's put together, he said, we've been blessed to be able to put together a roster that brilliantly fits what we want to do this upcoming season. Trent Noah is a perfect example of that. He is a tall, physical, 3-point shooting wing, and Kentucky's got those littered up and down the roster this upcoming season. Love this pickup, Noah. I'm so excited you're here. I'm really looking forward to seeing what you do, not just this season, but I think in a much bigger role next season as well. And let me know what you think in the comments below about Trent Noah, 4-star shooter that I believe fits perfectly into Mark Pope's system. All right, Mark Pope this upcoming season, I think it's going to have a stark contrast to what we've seen with Coach Cal in years past, just as far as style of play, statistics, tempo, maybe even results as well. And CBS Sports recently put out an article asking the question, okay, these 2 squads have kind of been able to pick up some different transfer portal pieces and put together an 8 to 9-man rotation. What would happen if both of these teams played today? Who would be favored? I want to share my thoughts on this article in just a second. Before we do that, though, I want to tell you guys about our friends over at Yahoo Finance. Wouldn't it be great if you could see all of your investment and retirement accounts in one place? With Yahoo Finance, you can consolidate your views from multiple accounts into one hub and access the expert analysis you need to tend to your entire portfolio with confidence. For more than 25 years, Yahoo Finance has been the brand behind every great investor. Whether you're a seasoned investor or are looking for that extra guidance, Yahoo Finance gives you all the tools and data you need in one place. They are the #1 finance destination, providing a holistic look at the finance news cycle, including breaking news, original editorial perspectives, analysts' ratings, independent research, customizable charts, and so much more. You can securely link your brokerage accounts for a unified view of your wealth, including 401k and other investments. A comprehensive perspective is what sets apart great investors, and it's how Yahoo Finance ensures you have the insight to look at your wealth in its entirety. For comprehensive financial news and analysis, visit the brand behind every great investor, yahoofinance.com. The #1 finance destination, yahoofinance.com. Again, that is yahoofinance.com. All right, continuing along here on the Thursday edition of Locked On Kentucky, Lance Dawe hanging out here with you. Again, I appreciate you guys checking out the show today. If you are not subscribed to the show already, I would greatly appreciate it if you went ahead and did so, whether you were listening on podcast or on YouTube. And leave a comment, by the way. If you have a question for the show, I'm going to do my best to try and collect these over the next few days so I can kind of address some of the things that you guys have been talking about in the comment section. I know some of you already have, and so we're going to get to some of those listener questions over the next few episodes. So drop those in the comments below. And again, if you have not subscribed to the Locked On Kentucky Discord, it's actually pinned on my Twitter at @LanceDawe_. You can also go and check it out in the link in the description below. Okay, let's talk here about this really interesting CBS Sports article from two different writers, Cameron Salerno and Isaac Trotter. This came out yesterday, May 8th, and they wanted to ask the question, what would happen if Kentucky played Arkansas right now? If these two rosters, these two transfer portal rosters, primarily transfer portal players, especially for Kentucky, what would happen if these two teams played for a scrimmage this month? CBS points out, of course, they'll face off at a to-be-determined time and location during SEC play in 2024-25, but we want answers now. Who would be favored in one of college basketball's most anticipated games of the season? Who would win? So they have this article broken down into two different segments. They explain why Kentucky would win, and they explain why Arkansas would win, and then they give a betting line, essentially, their projection of who would be favored in this contest. And I think it's going to shock you where these two writers land. So here's why Kentucky would win, according to the article. The projected starting lineup for the Kentucky Wildcats, according to these two writers, Kerr Kriisa, Kobe Brea, Otega Owe, Andrew Carr, and Amari Williams. Now, me personally, you've heard my opinion on the show. I think Lamont Butler will start at point guard. That's just me. If you disagree with that, it's perfectly fine. If he doesn't, I don't really think it matters that much because both of these players, Kriisa and Butler, are very good at two different things, and I would like to see them both on the court. I don't necessarily think there's a major drop-off as far as overall talent with either of them. But look at that. Kriisa, Brea, and Owe, and Carr, I mean, those are four legitimate three-point shooters out there in the starting lineup. Butler, Brandon Garrison, and Colin Chandler would be coming off the bench alongside Trent Noah now, who is committed since the release of this article. And this is the case for the Wildcats, according to the piece. The biggest flaw of the 2023-24 Kentucky roster was the defense. The Wildcats finished number 334 in scoring defense, which ranked fourth worst among Power 6 teams. That's something I don't think we talked about enough on the show during last season, is not only did Kentucky's defense absolutely blow in terms of just adjusted defensive efficiency, which we talked about a ton when we dove into KenPom, but they also really stunk it up when it came to just scoring defense. So they gave up a ton of points. Efficiency-wise, we talked about the difference maybe if Kentucky played a slower tempo, about how opponents would maybe have less possessions to kind of go out there and score at a pretty average statistical rate up until the end of the season, where Kentucky just kind of collapsed on that end of the floor, and then the statistics were just starting to get actually below average nationally. But anyway, I'm going on a tangent here. CBS continues. Ironically, Arkansas's defense was one of the units that ranked worse than Kentucky in scoring defense. They actually were just 0.1 points underneath the Wildcats. While both rosters look different, Kentucky has done more this offseason to improve the defense, and I would agree with that. You look at Amari Williams. I think that he will be excellent for the Wildcats this season, protecting the rim. He was really good at Drexel, 3-time conference DPOY there with the Dragons, and then Lamont Butler was the Mountain West Defensive Player of the Year this past season. I think both those guys are going to be very important with Kentucky and their physicality. I think guys like, by the way, Dawe, who are perfect two-way players. I think guys like Noah as a freshman, I think they're going to come in and provide a little physicality, but CBS continues to go on. Carissa led in the Pac-12 in assist when he was at Arizona during the 2022-23 season. Last season, Kentucky's team finished number 2 in scoring offense, knocked down 9.9 three-pointers per game. Under Pope, BYU finished 3rd in three-pointers made at 11.1 per game, and 41% of its total points came from distance per KenPom. BYU is number 14 in adjusted offensive efficiency, and with the 22nd ranked scoring offense, averaged over 81 points per game. CBS flat out says, and I completely agree, Kentucky has more bench depth currently than Arkansas, and that's just the benefits of what Kentucky's been able to kind of go out and do in the transfer portal. They've gotten, at this point, 7 different players to commit, 3 new freshmen coming in. I mean, it's a pretty solid rotation they've built out of different portal pieces, and I agree with Mark Pope whenever he described this roster as being brilliantly constructed by his staff to tailor itself to what Kentucky wants to do with their system this upcoming season. You can argue that Butler should be in the starting lineup of Carissa, but the latter is one of the best pure passers in the country that will help facilitate Pope's offensive system that did wonders at BYU. Colin Chandler might be the biggest wild card of the entire group. He hasn't played a minute of college basketball and yet was a highly touted recruit in the 2022 cycle. Arkansas has the talent advantage like most Calipari-led teams do when facing another opponent in either non-conference or SEC play. The combination of Kentucky's improved defense and the new offensive system is why they would win this game today. And we'll get to the line that they set on this contest in just a minute, but let's look at why Arkansas would win. The Arkansas projected lineup right now would be Boogie Fland, who did end up flipping to Arkansas, would be Boogie Fland starting at point guard, Nellie Davis or Janelle Davis, the transfer from Florida Atlantic, which, by the way, I just want to point this out real quick. Janelle played the 4 at Florida Atlantic. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and pull this up on KenPom. I'm going to pull this up on KenPom right now, and my alarm's going off. Florida Atlantic. I'm going to pull this up here on KenPom real quick just to show you guys, because I love to talk about the rotations that this website shows you. So Janelle Davis, or Nellie Davis, played 68% of his minutes at the power forward spot. If you go look at the most frequent lineups over the last 5 games, the final 5 games of the season for FAU, only one of them had Janelle Davis at the 3. That's as high as he got in the rotation. Every single other lineup, and it's 10 different lineups, 9 lineups included Janelle Davis at the 4. The one with him at the 3 only was utilized 2.8% of the time. At 6'4", 203 pounds, I said this whenever we were talking about him potentially coming to Kentucky. I think he could slide up. I'm not sitting here saying, oh, well, Janelle Davis played the 4, so this article is dumb because he's not going to play the 2. I think he could. I just don't know if he will. I think he's more of a 3. And I think Arkansas may have work to do there, honestly, to kind of get somebody that's more of a true 2 into that system. And I know Florida Atlantic played a little bit smaller of a style of basketball, but I don't know. I think Arkansas could get another shooter in there. It's just my opinion. We'll get to the downsides of shooting in a second. But Carter Knox at the 3, Adu Thiero at the 4, who ended up committing to the Razorbacks, and then Jonas Adu, starting center from Tennessee a year ago, who ended up transferring to the Hogs. And then the bench options right now would be Zvonimir Ivasic and Billy Richmond. You can see most of Kentucky's former recruiting class up in here as well. The case for the Razorbacks: Arkansas has high-end talent, has a chance to make John Calipari's first season really, really good. If you needed the best score first guard in the transfer portal, Janelle Davis fits the bill. If you needed the most well-rounded big man, Tennessee transfer Jonas Adu fit the bill. I disagree with that statement because if you're looking for well-rounded, I think you're looking for somebody that can also kind of knock down some outside shots, which Adu just doesn't take them. Takes a couple of mid-range jumpers, but if you're looking for well-rounded or versatile, I don't think that's the word you're looking for. Although he's a great interior defender and he's an efficient scorer at the rim, but I think that there are also some aspects of his game that are just not, he's not as consistent. But that is to say, he's also very, very good as a player. Like a really good rim protector. I would have taken him if Kentucky had offered him. Arkansas got both of them. Adu's defensive versatility is legit. He can protect the rim at a high clip. He can guard ball screens in multiple ways. Offensively, he has feathery touch in the paint, makes good decisions in 4-on-3 scenarios when his engine is revved up. Adu can be the best big man on any floor. As far as scoring and volume goes, that's not the case, but as far as just efficiency, I would agree with that. Kentucky transfer Adu Thiero is an excellent wing handler who can create advantages on the fly. He gets downhill in a hurry and provides oodles of rim pressure. Would love to see more consistency finishing from Adu Thiero, which I flat out believe he's going to get a lot more touches this year than he did last season at Kentucky. I'm excited. But against Coach Cal and what the kind of rivalry is brewing here, I'm actually pulling for a couple of the players that transferred from Kentucky to Arkansas. I'm pulling for Adu Thiero. I'm excited for him. By the way, Jordan Burks transferred from Kentucky to Georgetown. I think he's going to go be great there. I'm excited for those guys. But CBS wraps it up like this. Pound for pound, Arkansas's talent is ahead of Kentucky's at this stage of the offseason. Will that remain intact by November? That remains to be seen. Talent doesn't always win ball games, but it sure doesn't hurt. How ballyhooed youngsters like Carter Knox, Boogie Flans, Vonimir Ivasic, and Billy Richmond assimilate into the mix with Arkansas portal superstars will make or break the Hogs' ceiling. Davis and Adu will certainly be the best two players on the floor in a potential Arkansas-Kentucky duel, and Thiero won't be far behind that top duo. Here's what I have to say about this. According to the article, according to one writer, Kentucky would be favored by 2.5 points. According to the other writer, Arkansas would be favored, and he does not give a number. I think Kentucky would be favored heading into this matchup for a couple of reasons. Kentucky right now, like one article said, has more bench depth, I think has a more well-rounded roster, and they have one thing that Arkansas just simply does not have, which is shooting. And I know what some people are going to say. Boogie Flan's a good three-point shooter. He shot 30% during the EYBL tournament. Or whenever he was on the circuit. He shot 30% from three, which, as scouting reports indicate, is not necessarily reflective of his true shooting percentages, but go and actually watch him play. I don't think that he's not a Reed Shepherd. He's not an Antonio Reeves. And he's not a Rob Dillingham for sure as well. Although he is a very, very solid scorer, he's not an elite three-point shooter. Denell Davis is a solid three-point shooter, but again, I just wonder if you want him at your shooting guard spot. Carter Knox is not a phenomenal three-point shooter, although he is serviceable in that department. Billy Richmond, not a three-point shooter. He's just simply not. Ivasic did not really he had those first couple of games where he was efficient from beyond the arc, and then after that, it was nothing. Jonas Adu doesn't take threes. The lineup that Arkansas worked, or Kentucky worked with last season, it was successful on offense because of the fact that they could stretch out and shoot the three. And they played with tempo, and they had a bunch of really talented high-end guards. This season, Cal is swapping that out to go back to defense, to go back to physicality, and to go back to tough-minded basketball. And I just wonder if he's running it back with the same coaching staff, if he's going back with the same people who tried to coach Kentucky's unit last year. Sure, Arkansas may be good on defense. They may be very solid on defense, but will they be elite on that end of the floor, as some people are already projecting them to be? All I know is that this staff couldn't coach it out of last year's squad, and Kentucky had 2 lottery picks coming off the bench. You had 3 players on your roster that were listed at 7 feet or taller. They couldn't do it. You have some of those players coming in. They couldn't do it last year. They're going to be able to do it again. Maybe they will with another year of college. Maybe they will with another setting where they can go play ball. I don't know. But on paper, I think Kentucky's more balanced. They have shooters. They have passers. They have rim protectors. They have physical wings that can play some defense as well. I think it's a better roster right now. I think that offensively, Kentucky would be able to outpace the Razorbacks. I think that as far as experience goes, Kentucky has that in spades compared to Arkansas. Kentucky's got 5 or 6 fifth-year seniors at this point. Kentucky has gone from one of the most inexperienced to one of the most experienced teams in the country. They're going to go out there, and they've got some defense as well. I don't know. I think that Kentucky right now would win this matchup. That's just my opinion. I'm going to do an episode on this, like a full episode on Mark Pope versus Coach Cal at some point in the future. Not necessarily from, okay, what do their rosters look like, but from a coaching perspective. Forget the recruiting, from a coaching perspective. That episode's going to be coming up soon. I'm very excited to talk about it. Let me know what you think, though. about the Calipari versus Pope article that CBS Sports put out. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Leave it in the comments below. All right, so I've got 3 listener questions here for you guys from Twitter that I want to dive into. All of them about the transfer portal and my thoughts on some players that Kentucky may very well pick up pretty soon. Let's dive into that conversation in just a second. Before I do that, though, I want to tell you guys about our friends over at FanDuel, because it is winner take all time in the NBA and NHL, and FanDuel is giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own, because right now new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. That is FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. All right, wrapping up the Thursday edition of Locked On Kentucky. Lance Dawe hanging out here with you. Let's talk for a little bit about some listener questions. And again, if you've got questions, you can absolutely leave them in the comments below. All 3 of these are from Twitter, but I would encourage you, again, if you are listening on podcast, go tag me on Twitter in a tweet, ask me a question, Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. At Locked On UK is where you can find me, and YouTube comments work as well, perfectly as well. First question we have here comes from Pope the Goat, user 502_theville, and he asks, do you think we get Jackson Robinson and Chaz Lanier? Jackson Robinson, the transfer from BYU, and Chaz Lanier, the transfer from North Florida, both players that we've talked about extensively here on the show as of late. I'll say this. I don't want to sit here and give you guys any sort of illogical confidence. I don't know what the right words to use here are, but I don't want to sit here and tell you guys, oh yeah, absolutely, we're going to get both of these guys. Because right now, I genuinely don't know what's happening with Jackson Robinson, other than the fact that he's just still going through different NBA draft processes while also entering his name into the portal. I don't know what's going to happen with Robinson. Don't know if he's going to come here or not. I don't know if he's going to follow Pope. Lanier, I feel better about, because at least Kentucky's contacted him and had conversations with him, as has BYU, as have the Tennessee Volunteers. So I'll say this. Right now, I think we get at least one of them. I think we get one. I think right now, if I had to pick, I'd say it's Lanier, but I'm not sure what's really happening with either of them. Very much so don't know what's happening with Robinson. And right now, I would feel confident in Kentucky's ability to get Chaz to come to UK over BYU and Tennessee. We'll see what happens, but I'll say right now, I think we get at least one of them. I'm not willing to put a stamp on, yes, we're going to get both of them. Derek Miles at Derek Miles 95 said, if you had your picks on who you believe we actually land to fill out the rest of the roster, who would it be? Chaz Lanier and Jackson Robinson. It's pretty straightforward. Kentucky needs a scorer at both those positions, the 2 and the 4. Jackson Robinson would fit perfectly at the 4 or the 3 if they wanted to play him there. Chaz Lanier, perfect 2-guard, statistically the most efficient player in college basketball a season ago. Something that Mark Pope actually pointed out at during an interview with Kentucky Sports Radio earlier today, is talking about somebody on this roster actually right now, Kobe Brea, that is one of the most efficient scorers in college basketball in the last decade. Not necessarily from a shooting percentage perspective, but from a points per possession perspective. He averaged 1.33 points per possession. Next closest guy in the last decade of college basketball is 1.31. You pair Lanier up with Brea, that may be the best shooting and scoring backcourt over the last 10 to 20 years, just as far as numbers go. As far as talent goes, there's probably a different conversation to be had there. But yeah, Chaz Lanier and Jackson Robinson, those are the 2 guys that I would get. Absolutely. All right. Kentucky Shrek at Real BBN Fan. Kentucky Shrek. What an amazing, and you should see his profile picture too. It's awesome. He says, if Chaz Lanier, Wooga Poplar, and Jackson Robinson went other directions, where would UK turn next? I have one pretty solid answer, and I have one, it's not going to happen answer, but Kentucky could at least try it again. I'll go with the latter to start. Great Osabor, Kentucky could go after again. They could try and bring him back here. I doubt that would happen. I don't think that's going to happen, but they could try. But the player that I would be most interested in going after is actually a transfer that Kentucky went after last season after he left Creighton. Arthur Kaluma, who played 2 seasons at Creighton before transferring to Kansas State. And statistically, he actually had a pretty dang solid year at 6'7", 220 pounds. He averaged 14.4 points per game while shooting, 42.7% from the floor, 34.5% from 3, which is significantly better than his first 2 seasons at Creighton. He averaged 7 rebounds, 2 assists, 0.8 steals per game. Overall, just a pretty solid player for the Wildcats a season ago. He would be the guy that I would try and go after to play at the 4. That's the only legitimate prospect that I'm seeing that Kentucky could contact that they haven't really done anything with, that's not said no or committed elsewhere. So that'd be my answer, is Arthur Kaluma probably would be where I started, at least. So let me know what you think about those questions in the comments below. If you want to leave some of your own, you can do that as well. That's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Kentucky. You can follow the show on Twitter at Locked On UK. You can follow me on Twitter at LanceDawe_, and you can follow the show over on Instagram. That is at Kentucky Podcast. Any questions, comments, concerns, leave those in the YouTube comments below. Hit me on the socials. I will see you all tomorrow for another episode of Locked On Kentucky. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and God bless.